Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Wednesday's Live. Nice, chilly, snowy day. Good day for a hot cuppa. And today we're going to delve into composition, which I think is a big topic for everybody, whatever your level of experience. And there's a lot of topics we can cover. I think I'm going to cover, with different subjects, I'm going to cover the different topics. But the overall thing to remember about composition is trying to create asymmetry. We'll talk more about that. That's when we'll go into color. The other thing is use engaging shapes. The third thing is connecting those shapes. And the fourth thing is circulation through the picture. I think today I'm going to concentrate on connecting shapes because it relates to something we did last week. And it's probably the thing that I see the most egregious violations in paintings that otherwise would be very good paintings, fall flat on the thing of connecting shapes. So this particular subject, which is in Mineral Point, I'm going to crop it some. When we paint it, it's going to be more like this. But you can see we have a lot of interesting shapes here. We have the figure, we have geometric shapes, we have man-made shapes, we have organic shapes. So there's some of the asymmetry. It's more of the man-made shapes and less of the organic shapes. But what I want to concentrate on today is connecting those shapes. So take a look at this, where I remove the color and we just have the black and white. Do you see how the eye can circulate? There's some minor connectedness from this in the foreground, going along here, connecting up with these shapes, running across here, connecting with all these shapes, and the little light bits are kind of accents within this larger dark shape. It's just what we did last week when I showed you this quick and dirty little sketch of a street in Dubuque where I've just connected all the silhouetted dark shapes, backs of vehicles, buildings, multiple buildings. The thing here is hi Carol, we're not thinking of each of these things as an individual separate thing. We're not thinking of this as building, fence, sidewalk, car, tree, lift, person, things like that. We're thinking like the light. The light is no respecter of things. It comes across and it illuminates some things and it doesn't illuminate others. So what happens is the shadows can tie these shapes together. Now, yes, there are different values within here, but they are rather close. So you can use that to kind of tie these things together and help give a sense of illumination. Hi, Charles. Now, you can also do it, so think of it as a kind of shadow armature. You have an armature which can tie these things together, unite these things, and give a sense of the illumination. You can also do it with a light armature. So here's a bridge in Rome with the lights reflecting in the water. And if you turn it to black and white, you can see all these lighter shapes tend to connect to each other, or maybe not physically connect. They may get close to each other, but they're visually, you read them together. So it's something that can help you unify a painting and make it look like things in an actual space, as opposed to a collection of bits and bobs and this thing and that thing, and they're all just sort of appliqued onto a two-dimensional surface. So here I'm going to go to how how I want to crop that. I've made the decision that, well, this thing here, I really don't have maybe as much information about it as I would like, and because there's words on there, it draws the eye very much. So I want it to be about this guy here doing this electrical maintenance. So I've decided to crop down to here, and then I've still got my shadow shapes coming across here and tying these things together. So the drawing, of course, the thing we always do, I'm looking for the key horizontals and the key verticals. So about there. And this is what? About now, that comes a little further. Hold my pencil up. What's the angle there? I'll tend to want... Hi, Karen. Hey, California, fun. Better than being here in all this snow, maybe. Where does that come across? About there. If you can see this shape here that looks like a sort of a... I don't know. Reminds me of a state. I can't think of what might be. Kind of a deformed Ohio. This is basically a rectangle, a small rectangle. Where is it? A little above half. And we use these things to help us get the size right, get the shape right. There's a figure in there. He'll be about there. I'm just drawing him as a rectangle right now. Hello, Jerry. So I've got the fence here. It's at a bit of an angle. Very important diagonal here for the street. The main street in Mineral Point is the next one over, High Street, and this is the street behind it. Wonderfully paintable town. Maybe I'm giving this too much real estate. Perhaps I should give it a little less. But I can adjust this as I go. And they're shapes that are, because they're organic shapes, they're fungible. I can make them a little bit more of what I want. Would that be about half? No, it's a little below half. And the fence, see, I've got my fence. High there. This one's important. There's all this, who knows what it is. It's one of those thingamajigs that they raise up so people can work safely. I like this little bit of plant coming up there. Traffic cones. How often do you get to put orange in a picture? Not often. So it's always fun when you can. Now there's a vehicle here which I'm going to treat as a rectangle for starters. There's a truck over here. Again, I'm going to treat it as a rectangle for starters, and then I'm going to draw it more specifically. I'm going to put a little bit of a Now I'm going to start looking for the intervals. So some of you guys know this place. Hi, Jackie. And I bet there's a whole lot of paintings out there of these places on this street. It's a very interesting street. So this is just a collection of horizontals and verticals. little long rectangles, little short rectangles, light areas, dark areas. I just have to find where they're at. Now, it probably will pay to have that one relatively straight. There's a... Okay. We've got a... I love the little bit of a bend. It looks like somebody bent that fence. It comes past the edge of the building. That's very important. That's a compositional thing that's worth looking for. A thing in the foreground cutting across the thing that's further away, so that we are forced to conclude that this thing is in front and the other thing is behind it. And things like that are gold. There's some lovely cast shadows on that chain link. Which, okay, it's chain link, so I know that Troy Tatlock has definitely painted this spot. So if there's any chain link, he will find it. Now what I'm going to do is, this is kind of middle of the day, as you can see by the shadows cast from that. This shadow is from that edge. It's probably around noon. So I am going to make it just a wee bit later. Oh no, a wee bit earlier. Yeah, a wee bit later. Okay, because that would be more or less north. And I'm going to run these shadows out to the street so that I can drop them down over the curb. This one particularly, because I like the bent shape of the top rail. So we're going to add about a half hour, 20 minutes to the proceedings. Now those cars, for the starters, I'm going to treat them as rectangles and get the stuff in under them later. To pick up, higher up. We did do a thing on cars a while back, and it might be fun to do one on cars again. There's a building in here and some utility poles. So now our figure. He's not striking a very, hello Pat, he's not striking a very, what would you call it, exotic pose. He's just kind of looking at this, which, if he's a good electrician, you look it over before you start poking in there. Of course, I always make the heads too big, so I'm going to make the guy bigger. There is an open area in here which is showing light blue, and I guess that's another building because the trees coming through there, that wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to make an X there not to hit that by accident. So there's all manner of interesting things here. I think that's some wheels or something. Oh, my other cone, my other traffic cone. And this is the shadow of the object itself. Shadows on the truck and the car will have to be a little longer than what they are. Okay, and this business coming across here. Probably, hi Martha, probably won't hurt to have a decent straight line there. Let's reestablish my sidewalk. And then we're going to make our plan for colors. So what colors? Obviously a nice blue for the sky. I'm going to probably use cerulean or ultramarine for that, but I'm going to think about what are my light colors first. That's a nondescript warm gray. There is some... do I need that? Yeah, that's kind of nice. There's a lovely brick structure back in there. I think I'll leave that in. Try to miss that. So the plan will be to see if I can get my blues, and then I don't have to worry about here because that's darker. I don't have to worry about there. That's darker. I'm going to put in a reddish gray there, a dirty burnt sienna mix, some gray color for the fence, which will probably be, this will be burnt sienna with a little bit of ultramarine. This will be ultramarine with a little bit of burnt sienna. This will probably just be kind of that, but a lot more water. This will get later. I don't have to worry about that. I can let this bleed into this. I can let this bleed into that or that. So, hi James. I'm going to get a big-ish wash brush mop. And I'm going to need, I'm going to have to be careful of my figure too, aren't I? And the oranges. I need a clean, strong orange. So I am going to maybe make that my first color. I'm going to put it in here, and if it gets out of bounds, that's okay because I'll paint this dark around it. That, I think I'm probably going to, let's put the cones in. Let's get a third one in there. There's a little bit of orange in here too. So since they are lighter colors, I need to have them. And then let's put some water with that. And maybe a bit of burnt sienna to make it a less dirty orange. Hi, Michael. Maybe even a bit of yellow ochre. And what I'm going for is that color back there. And I can get it out of bounds because I'm going to put some darks around it and recover the shape. Now that looks a lot like, let's make up some more of that. Let's put a little bit of ultramarine blue. Ooh, that's too much. More of the burnt sienna. And today this is burnt sienna. It's not a iron oxide. fair amount of water with that. Very, very runny mix. I'm going to get that out here too. Hopefully I won't destroy my orange too much. Let's connect with that up there and recover it later. It looks dark now, I know, and I'm going to lighten it just a bit with a bit more water. It's going to look over dark because we're looking at it against some white paper. Put that behind there too, gosh. Now, holy mess stage, definitely a holy mess stage. Burnt sienna, stronger mix. Hello, Nancy. Maybe I should be doing that down here because I'm going to need a lot of it, right? Let's get it up. Bring it down here. Put a little bit of alizarin in it. A little bit of ultramarine blue. Going for this color here. And I'm going to do the whole building here because the shadow is going to go over it. Again, it's going to look dark. Let's put a little more red in it as we go so that it's not the same. And maybe we can con the viewer into thinking it's something textural like brick without having to paint every last little brick. Try to miss those things. I'm going to try to keep a wet edge down here, right where I come to the fence, because I'm going to mix some ultramarine blue and a fair amount of water, maybe even some turquoise. I want this to be kind of cool and very light, very light. Very runny. Barbara, hello. Patty, hello. And if some of the sienna gets in there, it's not a biggie. Okay, we're trying to shoot for connecting shapes. We do not want our shapes to look as though, in the end, as though there's separate things appliqued to the paper. So I'm even going to put a little water there to let these things merge a bit. Golly, why not? I know I've got some crazy blue in here. I'm just going to get a little bit of cerulean blue. I don't know why that's in there, but it's going to be in there. I'm letting it get out of bounds a bit because there's going to be darks over top of it. And now that I'm in the, let's mop this out so I don't create a problem. I'm really honored to have Barbara watching. I'm going to start making a sky color, which I pretty much thought was going to be cerulean blue. And I'll be adding a little bit of water as I come down. Now, I'll bet you I probably should have put that guy's shirt in. Well, let's even get a little cobalt in it. I'm thinking that's probably, it's a little bit runny, so it's probably not going to be dark enough. I can make it lighter as I go down, and its gravity is going to pull it. I should mention, though, that the board is at about a 45-degree angle. It's a 140-pound cold press Saunders. And here we go, get a bead going. Don't worry if it gets a little bit into here because that's going to be darker. Now at this point, because we want this to get lighter, I'm going to have to start adding water to the mix. Adding it earlier than I want to see that change happen because the gravity is going to pull some of it further down. Anyway, paint through the trees, try not to get my guy. Oh dear, I've got a message thread coming in here. Switching right to water, I think. Maybe even put a little turquoise in. Should I? What the heck? You don't want to dawdle around on a thing like that because unless you're looking for a clear division. And I'm just going to run this down with water and leave the odd white speck here or there. Oops, no, that's not a problem there. Okay. And then we'll probably want to dry it. Let's get the cars too, shoot. Set that down, rinse the brush, maybe tilt it the other way around to get some of that gravity. Patrick, hello. Thank you. Oh my goodness, it must be late in France. So I'm going to get the hairdryer. And I will mute so that you don't have to listen. Okay, we're back. Now, going to double check. Now we need to start thinking about, well, I may erase some of these lines in here just for allow me the freedom to not follow the line. Okay, that's that. Now, sorry, Patrick. Our next thing will be to start putting in the medium value colors, perhaps even some of the dark value colors. So those are going to be smaller brush, my usual choice, this is what we have used, this is what we are using. Now, when I'm connecting shapes, and that's the important thing that we're trying to do here, gosh, I should have left a spot for my green here. It's not too late. Let's get a stiffer brush. like a little oil painting brush, and some clean water. And burnt sienna lifts nicely. And since it's going to be a irregular shape, that's all right. Okay. When I'm going to connect these shapes, the value here and the value here is very, very similar, but they're different colors. So I'm looking for stopping points or places where things join, or narrow places where I can switch from one dark color to another dark color. Here's a good one. Let's see. This is a good narrow spot. I can switch from whatever color I choose here for the color I'm going to choose here. I can go a more greenish color here and then switch to a blue-gray for the shadow. So I think I'll start with the background, the trees. Take some of this blue, get more of it. Maybe I'll even get some Prussian blue. And Ginger the cat wants to go outside, but Ginger, you're going to have to find something to do. A little bit of yellow ochre, some Prussian blue, more yellow ochre, more Prussian blue. It's a dull green. I don't want it to compete with this green or the yellow of his shirt. And I know from experience I should probably make a good bit of it. Let's even get some of that. Okay, I want to try and miss. I'm going to get the bigger parts of this shape. Try and miss some of these utility poles. And this house. Maybe I'll even get a little bit of yellow ochre and touch it in there to make a bit of a, let's even get some strong yellow. And it's going to melt in because the edge is wet. And look a little bit different. So like some sunlight is hitting the top, as if. So I'm staying pretty much the same value, but I'm going for a slightly different hue. And maybe even as I get back here, try to preserve some of those utility poles. I'll put in a bit more of a blue to make it look farther away. So same value, different color, tying the shape from the left to the right. Leave some little skips. You can always cover up little skips later. And this is where I can join into those darks. So it's a good disguise point. You've probably heard me talk about that before. Disguise points, or sometimes I call them Thermopyles. Now as I get down into this area, I'm actually going to work in some red to make a purplish dark green. Because it is much darker in here. And And again, it's just the same idea. I'm trying to get a little variety of hue within the valued zone. Oh, I got some of my house. Try not to hit it. Be careful, John. Some of the tree comes out here. Oh, let's see. There's a tree coming out from over here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for some of that sky blue and pretend I can see more of that house. And, okay, now, let's see. Make it a bit darker and a bit straighter. It's a house. We need something straight. Okay. So we snuck across. Oh, okay. And I'm sure you are a very good cook, Patrick. Au revoir. Patrick knows his wines, too. While I've got this here, I can put some of this dark stuff. Hello, Linda, in with some of that blue I just used here. I just noticed when that melted in, it made a nice grayish blue, which I think is going to be pretty good for, well, parts of over here. Then I'm going to go with a little bit of water to make it slightly lighter at the bottom and perhaps leave some lighter spots. It does get a bit darker here and greener, so back into the colors I used over here. Because there's some greenery of some sort. A bush, who knows. This is a stopping point so that I can go out to those more specific shapes. There's the greens of that. There's lighter and darker greens, so I'm just going to put the lighter ones first. Let a little bit of that bleed underneath. It should show through, you would think. So keeping this edge wet. I'm now going to mix up a strong mix, meaning slow moving mix of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Maybe a little cerulean too. I'm going to connect out of this mess. There are some darker spots. A lot of good place to connect here. Some of that. Softer edge stuff here than there is in other places. I want a more distinct line in some parts here, so I'm going to wait a second until this blue color that I'm using, or this blue-gray color that I'm using. Soaks in a bit. So this I need to keep good and wet. I may modify it a bit as I come out, put a little more burnt sienna in it. Again, I'm trying to keep my values similar, but keep my hues a bit different. Now there ought to be a little bit of a shade on the other side of the curb. So is this getting drier? It's still a little bit damp. I think I'll work in here. So more ultramarine blue, more burnt sienna, a little bit of alizarin. Constant value, change of hue. Let's get it a little bit redder with some burnt sienna and alizarin. Because a brick building will... What else can I do here? I'm going to paint the big shadow up here. A little bit of a soffit or eave. There's not much of one there. As I come down here, I might put a little more blue in it. I have no... My cats are very active this afternoon. Oops. There's a little bit of something on that side. His pants. Oh, I guess there's probably some toolboxes in there. That makes sense. A lot of wires hanging down. Get a little more red in that, or some burnt sienna. Come down and connect with this. There's something over there. I have no idea what it is. This is a good stopping point because I've got some darks. I'm going to get more blue. Blues. Any of your blues, any of your browns, any of your reds. That's a nice big shape in there. Let's whoop in there and get that. Put a little more blue in that. A little more water so it's fluid. You'll notice I'm going into the Prussian. The good thing about the Prussian is it's already dark to start with. So I can have it a little bit more liquid than a mix that I might create out of ultramarine blue. And then it will flow better when I need to paint faster. Well, I'm sorry about that. I'm stuck in a lot of message threads today. I'm leaving light spots for whatever that machinery is there. I don't... Again, I'm the kind of painter who's not interested in stuff. I'm the kind of painter who's interested in how the light is behaving with that stuff. And we wouldn't see it anyway if there wasn't any light. So you can see I can get connected to this area now. They're starting to hang together, I hope. I should probably jump back and have a look-see. Some kind of crisscross thing in there. Now I do want to make, because it's machinery, and I don't know what kind of machinery it is, I do want to keep it somewhat geometric in shape, even if I don't know what I'm looking at. There wouldn't be too many curves or organic shapes in a piece of machinery. So, working with that premise, I'll be careful to try and make some of this stuff look like it should. Now there's a big dark rectangle in there with some variations. Now we're coming out here into the shadow that's being cast, so I'm going to put a little bit more of my blues in it and a wee bit more water. As a shadow moves away from the thing casting it, it will typically get lighter, but not always. And well, I can get a little lighter, can't I? So let's put the lighter blue in and a bit of water. Cerulean or turquoise. So I have to remember to drop the shadow down for the curb. Over to the curb. Drop it down, pull it out. Drop it down, pull it out. Might even make... Oh, look at that. I have a drip over here that's turning it itself into something. That's okay. The road is going to get darker. We don't mind. I didn't have to worry about it, did I? Okay. Cars. They're just rectangles. Let's have some more shadows coming across from we don't know what. Because that helps us divide our space. There are some dark shapes in here. Back windscreen of the truck. Something sort of turquoise-ish. the back side of the truck. And put a little of that up here too. Now I'm going to let that dry a bit because I need to, well, no. I'll go down into the darker color, which is again the ultramarine and the burnt sienna. Oh, no, you know what? It's probably not going to pay to put the shadow under the truck because I need to make the road dark and then put the shadows on the dark. So let's mix that color up. It's a gray that is not reddish. It's darker than that. It's not quite as dark as this, but almost. So let's use ultramarine and burnt sienna and adjust that. More blues. Let's get all three blues in there. Let's put a little bit of alizarin in too. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and alizarin crimson are like a sofrito or a mirepoix. So any of the blues, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson. They make it dark, which you can adjust a little more of the one or the other to get a color you want. Let's try it out up here. Too dark there, too dark. Let's add a little water. Get right under that. We'll get the cast shadow from the car later. I'm going to lighten it up, add just a wee bit of water as I come. So I probably should not have painted these shadows yet. I'll be very careful to try not to lift them. And even better still would be to modulate the three colors in the mix. So that it's not one uniform tone here. So I could well, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to go up and I'm going to work, well, I can work over here. I'm going to get some of my gray blue and perhaps a little more blue. And I'm going to try to get this oddball shadow shape. That winds its way across this fence. A little bit of that at the bottom too. And it kind of disappears into all the business going on up here. So I think we've got that, and I don't want to get too, I'm not Troy Tatlock, so I can't do a chain link fence like he can. Guy's a genius. Okay, I'm going to make a green, a richer green, using that nickel yellow color. Perhaps not. It's going to have not runny, but not the shadow side of these leaves in. Perhaps a little bright yellow here or there. Is this dry? No, it's not. I'm waiting on stuff over here and over here. Where can I work? In there. Some leaves. Oh, where can we go next? Well, looks like we can have a darker orange or a more reddish orange on the, whatever that is that comes across there. I'm going to add a little water to that. Leah, hello. To put the right side of the traffic cones into shadow, perhaps some of this. There's probably a bar on the other side there. It's not quite dry enough yet. Okay, that takes some of that orange and into some of this blue, and we're going to make get some more blue, a nondescript brownish gray, which we're going to use to do the gutter, well, I don't know what they're called, but you step off the curb and then there's a little area down below. And we could even, that plus a little bit of water to make it even lighter. And we could put some lines that suggest sidewalk in here. It's a little bit of shadow underneath the pole of that fence. I'm going to use that plus some of the orange and a bit of water to put some texture into the brick area. I don't want to paint individual bricks. I really want to avoid that if I can. And now everything should be dry enough up in this vicinity that I can get a clean greenish yellow and do this gentleman's shirt. Okay, we got a splotch over here. I'm gonna, some of that green. With some yellow ochre. Just anything that'll make a nondescript green. We'll touch that in here and there for the grass growing in the cracks. Another fun thing you can do, I got a blotch there. when you have a line like this, notice it comes right where that shadow does. But you can make that shadow look more transparent by putting a darker line through it. I'm going to adjust some of these shapes. To make them look more mechanical, I hope. Should be a shadow line coming out from the poles on the fence. Just a bit more in here. See, I'm trying to connect that, some darks in there, to the darks in this foliage so that it doesn't look like a thing that's just sticking out there on its own. That's what I'm trying to avoid at all costs. These things sitting around on their own. Let's get some of that nondescript stuff in a lot of water and just throw in some junk like that. This is getting wetter, drier. Boy, that stays wet. I don't know why. I'm going to keep working on my little man. His arm and his face are going to appear to be burnt sienna or dark. Again, this is not the right scale for a human figure. If you want to show anatomy, you have to go bigger. You have to be like that. So and I'm going to give him a white hat. Well, he does have a white hat, so I'm not doing anything. I didn't want to paint around these fussy little white and things, so I'll just do red too. Perhaps a little red here too. Can change these colors. There's nothing that says we have to. There is some interesting dark wire work or something coming out of here. Should probably do that with a very small brush, but these oriental brushes get a wonderful point. So if you're not using too hard pressure, there's some lines going across the street here and there. Excuse me. Where else can I? Excuse me again. That just will not dry, so I'm going to have to dry it. So hang on. And we're back. Okay. Now I can reestablish those strong shadows that are going to appear under the vehicles and coming off of here. Okay, the underside of that pickup. Rear wheels, front wheels will be a little bit higher up. Differential. Car there. Where else can we do this sort of thing? Let's have a hose of some sort. A hose like a line. I think that makes sense to have something like that in there. Where else can I put a strong dark in? Oh my, let's see. Underneath his hat. Shoot. Be very careful. Don't push my luck. Actually, the rear window of that pickup is actually rather dark. Now, as would be one side. Oops. Taillights. Right into the red or the orange. Where else can we sneak in some strong red? Let's put a stop sign up the street. I know there is one. And then let's get some burnt sienna. And very carefully put some texture over here in the brick. And the smart thing to do would be to detape it and see what's occurring. See if that tells us anything. I think I see something already. Yeah. I'm going to sneak across. Again, the idea here is connecting shadows or connecting shapes from one part of the picture to another for the purposes of creating a sense of light, compositionally some unity, but also a sense of how light works. Okay, now over here, there really isn't a shadow coming across from another building. But I'm going to put one as if there were. There are other buildings over there, and there could have been one built since I took this picture. Who knows? Let's get a really dark, and that thing again about making your dark areas look transparent. Let's put a couple windows in here. And that'll make that shadow look a bit more transparent. Where else can we fool around here? I think I would like to see some darker things on that leaf to look like foliage again. these are rather stark looking, these utility poles. So I'm going to just get some nondescript stuff and tint them a little darker so that they don't stick out too much. And then I'm going to make the top of it a little browner. In fact, let's do that all the way down. That way the side of the house will stay light and the utility poles will do what they should do. I'm going to put a line down the road. Line like that. So, to review, the whole idea is to try to find connecting shapes. This is the thing that I see people falling down the most on, is that they're good at drawing what these things and the cars and the buildings and things like that. They'll do just fine, but they tend to set alone, and they don't feel like they're part of some kind of some illumination, naturally illuminated whole. And if you can find ways to connect, squint, close your eyes and squint so that you can see where this dark shape just connects to this dark shape. Yes, they're different things. Yes, they're different colors. But this comes across, goes up, sneaks over here, connects with that, sneaks over here, connects with that. Some of this is close, some of this is far away. But this sort of thing really helps pull a picture together. So that's one part of composition, is connecting the shapes. We're going to talk about maybe engaging shapes, but I think a lot of people are actually pretty good at that. Choose shapes that are active and engaging. Maybe we'll have a separate topic on that. Then we're going to talk about circulation through the picture. We're touching on it because we're going up here, across here, across here. It's moving the eye around the picture in a manner that we might think of as being, again, trying to prevent the eye from just this thing, that thing, that thing, that thing. And then we're going to talk about the overall overriding principle of how to make a composition good, the subject of asymmetry, which is when we're going to come into color. I hesitate to touch on how I've done it here, but maybe I'll bring this picture back up and show where the asymmetry in the color is. But hopefully that was helpful. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.